I'm going to go over how to properly use a devil. Now, of course, the purpose of this is to understand that a proper use is to show you that, or have the understanding that this is how you're going to see it used. Thus, it allows you to recognize its use better. So if you know how a devil is properly used, and then you see its proper use case, you'll more readily recognize it. So to go over some quick concepts / little bits of conceptual referencing here, some mental anchoring or counterweight, whatever you want to call it. Let's talk about angels really quick. Angels are the shadows of God, or a God's shadow, and devils are the shadow of man, or a man's shadow. Now, a greater devil, of course, is an artificial god or a man of God, in the sense that a god created by a man. Now, the reason why I go over this really quick is just to also let it sink in that devils have many human characteristics. Thus, if it seems human, it's a devil. If it seems not human, angel or a spirit. And spirits and angels are really similar to one another because they are of a natural origin in heaven or in nature itself. Because you gotta remember, heaven itself is a higher spiritual existence than just the natural sublime spirit world. Think about this. Heaven, in that sense, is like I've said before, or whatever, it's like the golden city, a word that's used for it. And if you're talking about ley lines, those are more of a generalistic natural heaven, in the sense of I don't want to use the term lesser heaven, but more like a foundational thing. So you can have the ley lines, and then you have the golden city built upon those ley lines. And that's more of a difference of, spirits may form in ley lines, angels form in the golden city, and that type of stuff. So you understand where they form, even though they're both separate from men. In other words, as far as we're concerned with men, they're not formed by men. And therefore, they're similar in that nature. They're not a man-made construct in a direct sense. In other words, not some person formed a contract or whatever. They may naturally arise in the spirit network. However, the reason I kind of bring that up is to let things be known that there's a difference between a divine origin versus a human origin. As I was saying, devils have many human characteristics. Just like a man desires to be on top, a man desires to be in charge, he desires resources, commands respect, and all these things. Angels don't. Those are human wants and desires. Devils are very human. So, how do we use a devil then? What is a devil's use? As I've explained before, a power of a devil is the power over you, the power to control yourself. However, you don't think of you as you, in the sense of you can be others, as in other people are yous. And these yous can also be controlled by this power. Like I've explained before, this is a process of possession. But possession usually, you see wild examples and people just doing whatever, but lesser possession is very useful for making you have the ability to control others, as in I'm not trying to get into sorcery stuff here, but when you can control what somebody else believes or whatever and write it down, you don't care where they kind of go later with it. But the point being is that you still have that reference of control. They're still coming to your script. They're still reading off your notebook. And that's kind of like I say, possession in a lesser sense. And that's one of the lesser ways to use the devil. A lot of times people use possession to gain wealth, control things, manipulate certain situations. These are the lesser reasons why. Monetary value, so forth, political power, things of this nature is why you use a devil. The devil's power is very useful, these types of things. So that's one way of doing it. Now, there are greater ways to use a devil. And once again, this is with greater devils. Theoretically, you could get a bunch of devils together and attempt to quasi-do this. But it's being done with a greater devil, so let's just use standard things. So first things first, when using a greater devil, a lot of times you're not using that in a sense of for a devil's power to be used in the devil's way. This is using the devil's power to indirectly do something else, which will, like a domino effect, where you push one domino and knocks down a bunch of others and eventually does something that the devil couldn't do on its own. So one of the things that's being done is to summon the priest king. And to do this, you can use a greater devil. So the point when you want to summon a priest king is a priest king will destroy the greater devil. So, in a sense of like similar to, but not the exact same of the law of equivalent exchange, you're trying to force nature to rebalance itself. In other words, like, you put something really far on like a weight or whatever, and then something else will tip the other way because you've really offset this weight, and you're trying to create this offset so you can create an opposite force on the other side. So it's like you empower evil to do all these things, which will then force good to happen somewhere else, for nature to try to retain or maintain a balance. It's trying to restore balance. So when you create this, greater devil and whatnot, you eventually plan on killing this greater devil. Your ultimate purpose as a priest summoning a greater devil is to kill the greater devil, but it's not you that kills the greater devil, it's the priest king that kills the greater devil. So to give like an easy example of this, let's say you summon this greater devil. And this greater devil, of course, wears the name of God and so forth. So therefore, in your religion, you have to kill God. But God's really just this greater devil that you've created or summoned. You've made this a binding contract with. You yourself as the priest cannot do it. You're hoping that by creating this greater devil, and it causes such a situation that eventually the universe produces somewhere else because of, you're creating all this pressure on one side. The universe on another side or somewhere else will create an equal and opposite force. Like I say, loosely using that term, but it's more like, I'm just saying that as like a cognitive example. Like, in other words, you're causing great evil over here, so something else must be great good over there to balance out. And by creating this great evil, you're forcing the creation of a priest king somewhere else. Now, granted, you don't control who the priest king is, the narratives, or anything else. You're just creating the right pressure environment for it to be created. Like I say, you're just setting it up. So this type of thing is like you eventually kill God with the divine king, the priest king, and that is the natural role of like using a greater devil. You summon a greater devil, you wrap it in the robes of God, and then you worship it as a god and so forth, which it will command and whatnot. And then the priest king will eventually rise because of all the tyrannical evil and so forth that the devil causes through controlling others and manipulating them. But at the end of the day, the priest king will come because of all this universe force you've upset, and then will destroy the greater devil. And now you have a priest king. So it's kind of like you can use a great evil to summon a great good. And like I say, kind of like the law of equivalent exchange here, that it is kind of fulfilling that, but it's more like in a balance act. Like you offset the weight over here and it forces another force over there. Like, like using a lever. You don't apply terribly much force to get a lot more down the line because it's a force multiplier over a distance. So similar thing with, a greater devil and so forth. But that's usually one of the things. And the other thing is, this is a lesser and greater way. It's both kind of things, and it is what it is. But one of the main things that a devil does, this is part of the powers of a devil, is the control over you, right? And one of the things the devil does is it uses your own power in ways for you that you could do but don't. And what I'm talking about here is like, why do a lot of priests and like people and like even like the flock and so forth, why do they follow a devil? Once again, a devil can tell you, I'm going to send you to a bad place. Hell, for example. They can damn you to hell. Or they'll promise you, hey, I can bring you to paradise. I can bring you to heaven. Now, we understand here a devil cannot actually do any of these things. But they can promise it, and with the power over you, you don't know any of the difference. So that's why when like a devil does these things, it's very powerful. Because they're once again, they work in the cognitive world. They're a virus in your soul. You need a spiritual host. And they hijack your spiritual machinery to do these things. And I'm getting to one of the main things why people use these things for, and why it's very hard to get rid of them. And this is something known as the promise of immortality. A devil will promise you immortality. This is why people follow them. The devil will say, I can make you live forever. Just believe in me and just give me power over you. This is a very enticing, that promise of paradise, that promise of heaven, but this is more advanced in some ways, because once again, a dog does not know its death is imminent or whatever, and cannot foresee its own death. Therefore, a dog does not know death. This is about, being awakened or understanding your own mortality or the chance for you to die and so forth. And then being able to be afraid of death. Understanding your own mortality. So to give you a power over yourself, a power to control your own fear over your mortality, a devil can promise you immortality. Now, the devil's immortality that is giving you, that is bestowing upon you, is not a real immortality. Once again, devils cannot deliver on promises, but they can manipulate the you into believing it. And it doesn't matter, because once you're dead, you're dead. So, and the devil, of course, moves on to the next soul. That's why it needs to constantly spread to other hosts. So with the devil's immortality, which is not a true immortality, it works like this. That which does not live cannot die. Now, an important thing to understand here is it's a true statement in the sense of that if you kill something, it can no longer die. So what a devil does is it destroys your soul to do this, or hampers your soul to basically be at a point where it's a lesser soul. Kind of like consumes parts of your soul or whatever, like a soul eater, and just eats that part of your soul so you can no longer fear death because you're no longer alive. You may be existing in hell. Once again, the dead live in hell. Thus, when the devil has control over you, you're in hell. You are not living. You are the undead in hell. You just exist in hell. And this understanding is that you are immortal in hell because you're not alive. The alive, like I say, the alive can die. Since you're not alive, you cannot die because you're not alive. This is, a devil's trick. The inversion of morality, the inversion of reality. But this trick is the power over you. Once again, magic. So when you understand how the devil grants immortality, and you understand this is one of the powers of the devil. It's a lesser power / kind of greater power. It goes in between because it's very alluring. And this is how they use this, it's like both. It's kind of like the devil's bread and butter. It's, or another way of kind of like saying it's like a piano. Anyone can stroke a few keys on it. Any devil can start this up and be stroke a few keys. But it takes a great devil to be able to master the use of the piano, to master the use of this power of granting immortality. A devil's immortality, once again, is not true immortality. You will die. But if you never live, that's the trick. That's the devil's trick of getting you into that position. So it, once again, hampers your growth of your soul, stunts the growth of your soul, eats part of your soul, however you want to look at it. And then, because that part of your soul, when you rise up to a level of understanding what death is, it eats that part. Basically, it's like taking a hammer to your brain and just knocking out your ability to understand that you're alive. Therefore, you're now like a dog. You no longer fear death because you don't know what death is. You can't understand that one day you will die, or could possibly die. You can't understand that anymore. So, that is why it is very much used all the time, especially on the flock, to control them, because people don't believe in religion or whatnot, for simple reasons like, I came to this truth and understanding. They're coming to it for devil's promises and power. So the devil tells them, I'm going to give you these riches. Oh, believe in me. Oh, I tell you to bless the priests that I've made a contract with. Bless them, give them material possessions, and I will reward you too. Once again, the powers of a devil. So when it comes to using a devil merely for the contract holder, and this is understanding how it uses on both sides. The contract holder gains material possessions, power, and so forth. In other words, gains more dominion over the physical world indirectly because it uses the devil's power to control a flock, which then can use them as hands and feet for the priest's, whatever, machinations they happen to have. Whether it's rebuilding a new nation of priests, building them a grand temple, or giving them food for sacrifices or whatever. That is a use of the contract holder with the devil. Now, however, and this is the important understanding, the flock's use of the devil is control over their fears and the ability to get themselves motivated to do something through rewards. Hey, I'm going to do these good things because I'm going to go to heaven. Oh, I don't have to worry about death anymore because I'm going to go to heaven. And those bad people I don't like, they're going to go to hell. Once again, the devil gives you power over you, not over the greater divine reality. The devil has no power in the greater divine reality. And thus, the only use of a devil is to control others and to control yourself. Once again, others are yous and you are you. You're all consciousnesses, and using a devil's power to control it, well, that's how you use a devil.